You're listening to the Talkbox sign. You're listening to the Talkbox. Let's talk about it. Talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Yeah, you're listening to the Talkbox sign. You're listening to the Talkbox. Let's talk about it. Talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Talkbox.
Hey, you guys, it's your girl Sonja G here on the Talkbox. I got my awesome co-host with me today. Y'all know him. This my son, my firstborn, Divon Crutchfield in the house today. How are you doing today, son?
I'm doing great, Mom. Thanks for having me on the show. Glad to be here, co-hosting with you.
Yeah, I love it. I love it when you co-host with me, and especially on this topic today. We're talking about the male perspective, part 2, and we're just gonna go ahead and dive right in. The first question I want to ask you, D, as far as from a male perspective, why is it that it seems that men have a harder time being committed or entering into a healthy relationship?
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with men not necessarily being really clear about what they want for themselves, not really having a clear understanding of, hey, am I done with kind of sowing my wild oats, for example. There are some men who, I think it makes sense if, and this, happened to me personally, where if you've got a good partner in front of you, but you're, in your late teens, your early 20s, maybe it's just not the right time for that person. And I think you got to be honest with yourself and with them about whether or not you're ready to settle down. Now, some of these older guys, honestly, who still can't seem to figure out whether they want to be with one person, sometimes they're actually married and they're still out in the street. I don't understand that. I feel like if you're going to be married to somebody or you're going to tell them you're going to be in a faithful relationship, you've got to be able to stick to that. You've got to be able to commit to that. And so I think a lot of times there's this, hey, do I want to be single and do I want to run the streets, or do I want to be with, my partner and be faithful? Then I think there are a lot of men who are also just making mistakes just because, they're in a situation and there's a lot of temptation. Maybe it's on the job. I think that's a really common place to kind of be tempted by people around you. And they don't necessarily defend themselves in the way that they probably need to keep from kind of falling into some of these traps. And I think there are some women out there who, particularly if you have a good thing going on at home, are more than willing to come in. They don't even want you and they'll blow your stuff up. And so if you're not careful, you can fall into that. But I think the biggest thing is, if you know you love the person that's in front of you and you're committed to being with them, I think you just have to try your best to avoid situations and temptation that'll get you in trouble. And I think a lot of men aren't really honest about that. I think they either think that they can stay faithful or they think it's not a big deal. And so they just don't take the precautions that they probably need to take in their relationship.
I think also, D, that in regards to women, there are a lot of women out there that really don't want their own partner. Because they don't want the full responsibility of being a wife or a faithful girlfriend. So therefore they seek out married men who look like that they're loving their families. And it's sad to say, but sometimes men are just slow-minded because they think with their third leg instead of the one that's on top of their head. And then I have found this while I counsel couples. I have found that sometimes men go through childhood trauma or even adult trauma, especially when you find someone who have been married more than once. It's the same on both sides, male or female. If Johnny treated me like this when he said this, then I think that James is doing the same thing, and vice versa. But and a lot of women gonna get mad at me for this one. But this is just what I found to be true. Men, when they incur hurt, men hurt deeper than women. And the reason why I say that is because most women can bounce back from whatever it is, when it comes to relationships. But a man tend to, even though most men are say that their partner is the one that's hanging on to the past, most of the time it's them. Because some woman cheated on me, then everybody's going to cheat on me. So I might as well do it first, type thing. But in this season, I think that if we want healthy relationships, we have to learn how to be honest with our own selves. Because if you're not honest with yourself, how can you even begin to try to be honest with your partner?
Yeah, you definitely can't. I think that makes a lot of sense. I know that sometimes with men, in particular, if you talk about who's the most likely, for example, to hurt themselves, suicide, that type of thing, it seems like men are really impacted by, for example, divorce. That can really hurt them. And I think that what you're talking about, being honest with yourself, is hard for a lot of people to do that. But I think that men in particular, with them, it seems like men are just kind of holding off on, like I hear the stereotype of women who can date men, but men that don't necessarily want to settle with women. And I think that men sometimes aren't very, they don't have this understanding. They don't realize that we tend to do better with a partner. I think that women, the studies are kind of suggesting that a lot of times these women, particularly after a bad relationship, are doing well by themselves. And I think that, women who are single, I read a study the other day that said that single women are more likely to save more money, to better at building wealth than single men are. It seems like women can really go out there and thrive on their own. And I think what we really need, honestly, from the male perspective, is just a kind of a mind shift change that really starts to become more cognizant of the fact that we need women. We always want to talk about women needing us, but I think we do better with women health wise, money wise. We do better when we're not single. We have more sex when we're not single. Married people tend to have more sex than single people, believe it or not.
But that's a myth that men think, oh Lord, when I get married, I'm not going to have as much sex. And I think that's a major myth.
It is.
That throw people off.
It is, because you sit there and you think if you're single, you can do all this and all that. But anybody who's been single, particularly as a man, it's hard work out there in the streets when you're trying to date and maintain a bunch of women. That's a whole lot of work. And the likelihood is you're just going to get a whole lot more, satisfaction in that area with a woman. And so I think in a committed relationship, and I think that men aren't necessarily cognizant of that. And I think if we want everybody to be happier, I think us coming in and realizing, hey, we need this just like them, and what can I do to be a better man? I think that would make men and women happier.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this, far as from a sexual perspective, I think that a lot of times men get the wrong idea in regards to women. Now sex is my favorite pastime. Yeah. And my philosophy is, if we having sex on a regular, then I'm gonna forget what I'm mad at you for. So it would be better if we, and because sex is it actually goes more deeper than the act itself.
Mhm.
Sex is a bonding process. It's some glue, because you got to think, if we're doing it, um you tend to forget about those small things that's nagging at you
Mhm.
so much. And so I tell women when I'm talking to them that it's not good for you to use that as a weapon. Uh, and this day and time, it'll backfire on you
Mhm.
anyway. So,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah,
Yeah, and that reminds me too. For me, in my perspective, I'm similar, and that's an extremely important thing to me. Like one of the most
yes.
important
You
things.
got it from your mama, boo. You got it from
Exactly.
your mama.
If that area ain't working, then I'm not gonna be happy. Period. But at the same time, for me, it's like if I don't like you as a person, or we're having a lot of disagreements, then my
Yeah,
mind isn't even on that. So
right.
for me, it's like we have to have some type of foundation of happiness together before I can even engage there. So if that part of our relationship is working well, that means pretty much everything is going to be working well. I know personally, I'm not going to feel like doing it. And I'm sure a lot of women are like that. A lot of men are like that too. Like, if you're getting on my nerves right now, I'm not really, in the mood or whatever. So I
Yeah,
feel like, your relationship really needs to be firing on all cylinders
yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
you know?
Well, there. I tell you this, statistically speaking, sex and money are the two things that is high up on the list as far as divorce or breakups.
Mhm.
When you tend to have a healthy sex life, and you tend to be using wisdom financially, your everything else seems to uh, work out a lot better. There's a lot more happiness, a lot more joy, because you know if you ain't getting none and you broke,
Yeah.
oh man, that'll make you mad. That'll make you kick over some tables.
Yeah, definitely.
So just trying to have a balance in those two
Mhm.
areas, I think, is very good. Now, I have a deeper question for you, son, and let
Mhm.
me stop and say this, you guys. I'm out of town and I'm on the beach, so you might be hearing some noise and stuff. I tried to close the door, but one thing I can say, you are my oldest child, but I really admire you as a man and as a husband and as a father. And that's why I love talking to you about relationships. I'm not a fool. I know that you and Angelique don't see eye to eye all the time, but you are a great example, and now we're looking for people who are doers,
Yeah.
and not just sayers. You know
Right.
what I mean? So, what do you think is the biggest misunderstanding women often have about men in relationships?
Mm, One of the biggest things I think, honestly, is downplaying some of the needs that we have that are ki- kind of more unique to men than women, particularly the sex thing. One of the things that I've seen is that for whatever reason, um, the our sexual needs are kind of treated as like the redheaded stepchild. Like you sometimes women and men can have the tendency to kind of like, oh, that's not a big deal. Why do you care so much about this? But when it comes to women's needs for like affection and romance and that kind of thing, it seemed more legitimate than like for men, the fact that we have this strong sexual desire is like, that's not a big deal. Why do you care so much about that? It's just sex. Like it just feels like there's this kind of a downplaying, and it doesn't get the same type of um, I don't
Wait.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to have the same type of weight as women's needs when it's something that's just as important, and it's nothing to be ashamed about. We are going to have to get that need met somewhere, and we're looking to women to meet this need. And if you don't feel like, if you don't feel like it or whatever, there's only so much of that
Yeah.
that men would be able to tolerate until they just start naturally looking at other, at
Other
other things
things.
at other places. And I think that your competition, other women use that as like a weapon. Like
Yes.
if when I've been in situations where I had another woman, particularly an ex, try to come back into the picture, that's the first thing they want to throw at you. Like when we were together, you didn't throw it at me like that. But then now that you're trying to get me from somebody else, you're trying to like weaponize that. And I think
Right.
one of the easiest ways to kind of keep a guy his attention on you is to make sure that he's satiated in that area. And
Right.
I think that it's not any disrespect to women. It's just a need that we have.
Right,
And
and it's a major need, I believe. I counseled a couple one time, and this man, he loved his wife, and I knew that he loved her, and he loved fellatio, and so he would beg her. And so in counseling, he said, Miss Sonja, if she just give it to me at least once a year for my birthday or Christmas or something, because that was a strong desire that he had. And she said, well, I ain't sucking you, so whatever. And so my question to her and to him was, do you give her fellatio? And he said, all the time. And so that is common too. We have to meet each other's needs, whether that's a sexual need, whether that's something that if I don't like blue socks and it just tears my nerves up for blue socks, why would you wear blue socks? And I think at the end of the day, whether it's in the sexual area, the money, the kids, whatever it is, communication is the glue for resolve in every situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's part of the issue that a lot of people have is assuming that they know about their partner's communicate like needs, instead of understanding that you have to talk to people. Like people who act like, well, I don't have to get my partner's input on X, Y, and Z. That's silly. You absolutely have to talk, because you don't know what they want. One thing that my grandpa did to my grandma all the time is he would call himself getting her a gift, but he wouldn't ask her what she wanted. So he would go out and buy her a car and never ask her, did she like it or not? He would go out and buy her furniture. If you're a man, you don't know anything about furniture. Please don't buy your wife any furniture, any clothing without her input. Don't buy any of that stuff, because you got to ask her what she wants. And I just remember it was in our house for like 20 years, and I asked her about it. This was a couch that he had bought her. I was like, well, why do you keep this couch covered up all the time? And she said, well, basically, I didn't like it when he bought it. It's sitting in the living room for 20 years. And that's another thing about women. If they're doing stuff, stepping on your toes that you don't like, you have to tell them. They don't really know. Some men might think they feel like, as a man, I should be able to go out and buy you stuff and give you a gift without asking you, because that's what men do. They take charge. And so, he may have that misconception. So there's got to be this free communication between people.
Now, I do think this, though. You said something about clothing. I do believe that men are visual. We are emotional. So when it comes to clothing, I'm not saying all the time, but I am saying that you might want to see your wife in something particular. And I think those type gifts are very special and dear. But again, with the you got me on that car buying thing because I wanted a Mercedes.
Mhm.
My husband bought me something else.
Mhm. Mhm.
but I was thankful for that.
Mhm.
But when uh my husband don't really have to um ask me for things that he want because I study him.
Mhm.
I'll give you and I listen.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a for instance. I was out of town, and I talked to him, and he had went to the grocery store, and he called me. He said, "Hey, I just went to the grocery store. This freezer ain't big enough. We need a deep freezer."
Okay.
You know,
Mhm.
I said, "Oh, okay." That's all I said. But when I hung up the phone, I ordered a deep freezer.
Right.
Different things that he asked for. I hear him talking to somebody else,
Mhm.
or him and the guys is all watching something on TV and some flash across the TV. Man, I need to get that
Mhm.
because I'm naturally a
Mhm.
giver. But I have had conversations with my husband uh, and said, "Hey, I know you can't outgive me because I'm naturally a giver,
Mhm.
but you need to step up your game." So I think that whether you're the man or the woman, you need to pay attention to your mate,
Yeah.
and learn their love language,
Mhm.
and try to meet them there. And
Yeah.
I think that we tend to miss it
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there are certain things, particularly if you want to get good at giving like surprise gifts, you do have to
Mhm.
be very good at listening all the time, making a
Mhm.
note of the things that they say they want. And I think that's great. Also, just like you said about if you're a man, we're visual creatures. If you're talking about your wife wearing something like in the bedroom or around the house,
Mhm.
certainly, I mean, in most situations, you could just go ahead and get that. But if you talk about, y'all are going out to, I don't know, a ball or a party or something like that, and some men might be able to do this, but a lot of times, as far as men picking what you wear out in public,
Yeah.
it's kind of,
Nah.
yeah, it's probably not for the best. But I want to
Yeah.
look back to something that you said a minute ago
Mhm.
about the fellatio and the way that the man couldn't get it, but the woman often got oral sex from him.
Mhm.
And my idea of that, and this is where you and I, you being,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Okay. Come
more,
on, talk to me,
more in the
son.
church, and me being not in the church at all, really, um, might not see eye to eye. But this is, in my opinion, why you have to have premarital sex. In my opinion, because you have
Well,
to.
wait a minute.
In
Let me
my
push
opinion,
back.
in my
Let me
opinion.
push back. Let me push back. I'm talking
Let-
about the story. I'm talking about
right,
the story
right.
because she
Mhm.
used to give him head
Well, see,
before they married.
okay,
And
so that
so,
that adds a different context on it. Now, for
yeah,
me,
yeah.
look. So here's what I'll say to this: if you hook me by doing X, Y, and Z sexually,
Keep doing it.
you have to keep doing it, because if you don't, I'm gone. I didn't
Somebody
sign up
else
for that.
will.
I didn't sign up for that when we were single and doing it. Anytime I wanted it, every day, every other day, certainly
Yeah.
oral sex and basically just sexually free in general.
Mhm.
And then you turn around and basically once you get the ring, now you're acting like you don't do that anymore. You acting
Right,
like
right,
we in church 24/7. Uh, I wouldn't be interested in that, and I would leave. Like, I'm not gonna put up with that personally.
right.
And you can call it petty or whatever, but I mean, if that's how the relationship was built and that's my expectation, and then you
Yeah.
stop, that's now. I think
That is
there's
a
some
problem.
flexibility to be said about, hey, now we got kids, and so where you used to do X, Y, and Z, we're going to have to push it back until the kids go to sleep, or there's some
Early
working,
in the morning.
yeah, something like that. You got to do something like that. I understand that. And then, of course, if you're pregnant and you're about to deliver, I'm not saying anything on that. but just as in general, like fellatio to none, wouldn't put up with that. But I
Well,
do
he
think
did because he ended up leaving,
good
and
for him.
then she cried, you know,
Good.
and I'm like, what are you crying for? You
Yeah,
did
exactly.
that.
Yeah, you know
Um,
what it was.
yeah, and not even just that. What I have been finding too is not just on a sexual tip, but on a everything tip. You can't get upset when other folk. I've told you over and over and over, I don't like this. And even through all of that, I'm continuing to be nice and be loving and giving you what you need and want,
Mhm.
but you don't give it to me.
Mhm.
Give me what I need and want. And people act like they surprised when folk leave them, and
Mhm.
you wouldn't give up no head, and then now all of a sudden you upset because I done went over here and got head somewhere else,
Yeah.
or whatever the case is. In my case, I hate a liar.
Mhm.
I can't stand it. It'll make me forget I'm a preacher, teacher, all that. So don't lie to me.
Yeah.
And I have a girlfriend who don't she ended up, her husband left her. It was something and that she thought was nothing. It had something to do with the food.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
and he kept telling her, listen, if you want to fix it, I'm trying to remember how it was, but if you want to eat all of that fried foods and stuff, I can't eat that like that. My dad died at a young age due to arteries and stuff, and it had gotten into him. He was like, she trying to kill me.
Mhm.
Because you know what I mean? So he ended up leaving.
Mhm.
Sometimes we will lose the greatest thing for us for stuff that can be fixed.
Yeah.
Just stop doing it.
Hmm.
Or start as far as the fellatio and stuff. Start doing it more.
Yeah.
Cat Williams, the comedian, said, if people would start giving these men fellatio, it wouldn't be no mass shootings.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Hey, look, the Taliban, all those people, mass shooting, Taliban wouldn't be up there blowing themselves up. If you can get it at home, because that's part of the issue. They got a lot of single men over there, and they think if they kill themselves, they're going to go to heaven and get
And have
basically
10 wives.
a bunch of virgins or whatever and have all these women. Well, if they were getting it at home, they wouldn't have to do that. Same thing with these people shooting up all these places. They mad, they single, and they got a lot of testosterone. That's true, though. Yeah, I was talking to Angelique about that. Like a lot of guys who are out here, running to other women and stuff. Yeah, if they were getting the stuff at home, you wouldn't even have energy to do that. You know how we are afterwards. Like if we got that every morning, we just be chill all day, going through life. You couldn't tell us nothing because we're already satiated like that.
You could just go out and master the world. Let me ask you this though: what do you say to the men who are getting good sex, who do have a good partner or wife, the ones that they have a good communicator in a mate, they have everything that they need, then what is wrong with that? What's going on with that? Because it's a lot of people that do that.
Are you talking about men who are still, unfaithful
Still,
after
they're
all that?
unfaithful.
Yeah.
They're unfaithful, not even just from a sexual perspective. I'm talking about sometimes you can have everything at home, and you still, what is it that draws a man out when he has everything at home? That's the question.
I think one of the big things, and I think, I've touched on this at least offline talking to you before, but I think particularly in the Black community with Black men, we have this cultural thing about chasing women. And I think that some of us, even after you're in a committed relationship, sometimes, even if you're married, there's this thing about basically feeling entitled to be able to go out and get new women, regardless of the relationship that you're in currently. And if you look at people like Kevin Samuel, for example, a lot of people love Kevin Samuel's relationship advice. And while he has some good advice, he basically turns a blind eye, if you're a successful man, to going out and getting new women. He says that basically you women should expect your successful men to be out in the streets getting new women. That's his right. He said, when successful men cheat, it's not cheating, it's exercising your options. Quote. I mean, that's what he's.
Wow. And so he's trying to get his head busted.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. So, and that's what I mean from a cultural perspective, being an older Black man, Kevin Samuels also has this mentality, like, if I'm paying these bills at home, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, I should have the right to go out and do X, Y, and Z, no matter what my partner's doing at home. And I think
if the woman make more money, then she got the right to go out. That's crazy.
No, never that, never the woman. That only works one way. But yeah, it shouldn't matter about who's making the money. But then that's why like you said about earlier about doers and the importance of making sure that you're talking. The person you're getting your advice from needs to be in a situation that you want to find yourself in. Because Kevin Samuels was twice divorced. He didn't have a single solid long-term relationship under his belt, and wasn't in a long-term relationship when he was given advice, but wanted to tell men and women how to have a successful marriage. That makes no sense. Right. And then when we wanted to talk about, people would bring up the fact that he wasn't married and he didn't have, this thing that he's trying to give people advice about, he would get salty and he didn't want to talk about it. And he'd say, oh, we're not going to talk about me. You see what I'm saying? But I think culturally we have to let go of this idea of it's okay, even if I'm married, as long as my wife don't find out, it's okay for me to do X, Y, and Z. Right. Because ultimately it's not okay. Ultimately you will get caught anyway. It's a matter of time. And you might as well just not start it. Don't start it.
Well, here's something even go further than that. In this season, during this time, it's dangerous. It's dangerous from a sexual perspective. You bring something home and give it to your significant other. And it's dangerous because you never know the other person's mind state. You never know their breaking point. And I was talking to someone earlier, and I was saying how sometimes people can do real major stuff to you. And you handle that just fine. But then they do a little bitty thing on top of all of that major stuff, and they snap all the way off. And I think a general rule is treat your partner the way that you want to be treated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, if we can just do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so many people, they forget about that, though. They just kind of taking until, like you say, the partner reaches the breaking point. And sometimes it is a minor thing. I was reading a book one time. This lady left her man because he basically never cleaned up. And basically there was like a pair of socks or something that he just threw his dirty clothes on the floor or whatever. She hit her breaking point and left him. And he was like, why would she leave me over this? But it come to find out, you've been doing this stuff for years, and they hit a breaking point and it was over. You can't do anything then.
Because you get tired of saying the same thing over and over. Please, it's like taking somebody's arm and pinching it, and they're telling you that hurts, stop. That hurts, stop. That hurts, stop. And you keep on and keep on and keep on. So when they turn around and slap the mess out of you, don't be surprised. It's just that. But I got two more questions that I want you to elaborate on. The first one is, how do men often express their love and affection in ways that might be different from women?
I think a lot of times some men in particular, not all men, but a lot of times we're kind of taking our cues from society. And so trying to be a provider. Like for me, one of the things that I've always talked about and laugh about with Angelique is I want her to be able to be, if she wants to be, a kept woman. From her, like, you don't have to work, you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. I want you to be able to go and do whatever. I think for me, as in my mindset, a deep set mindset of being a provider, I want her to be able to be provided for, to the extent that you don't ever have to worry about finances, live life and go do whatever it is you want to do. But to her, that's not like basically important to her, like, at all. She had an expectation to work or whatever. And that's fine. But I think just that type of, when it comes to safety, trying to make sure you're safe, when it comes to making sure that you're provided for financially and otherwise, I think those things are ways that we show that we love you, trying to protect you. That's another way we show that we love you. And then as opposed to possibly romance, because I think a lot of women like to be talked to like in a romantic way, and they like to
love that.
And those things don't come as naturally, I think. And then also I've realized from my perspective, those things take a lot of work. It's a lot easier for me to do my normal routine, make some money, and then do something to give. Like, for example, if you like jewelry, I could easily get you jewelry, because that's something that's very easy to do, but it doesn't feel romantic really to a lot of women for you to buy them something as it would, like, let's say you want to, the difference between getting her a $200 piece of jewelry, let's say y'all make 100,000. The difference between getting her a $200 piece of jewelry and writing her a 2-page love letter, she's probably going to get the love letter.
Yes.
And so, but that also takes more time. If you got money, it's probably easy for you to shell out a couple $100. It's probably going to take you more time to, for example, plan a romantic evening. The several hours of romancing your wife. So, I mean, I think that is one way that we, as far as financial and like protection, is one way we communicate it. But I think we could do a better job. Like for me, if I want to do something really special, I have to take a day usually, and I'll take the whole day and say, okay, I'm going to plan and just do, like, I'm going to plan stuff and do stuff for Mother's Day, for example. I have to take every holiday or like anniversary. I basically had to take a day off work. It takes me 2 or 3 hours just to think of something romantic, because if you really want it to be romantic, it has to be novel. That's the way the human brain works. You can't do the same thing over and over. It becomes less special. So you have to set out a lot of time to just sit there and brainstorm, okay, what might she find romantic? And then it takes 5-6 hours to actually pull all this stuff together. So it takes a lot of time to be romantic and kind of.
But that is why those things is dear to our hearts, because we know that you put the time in, and that kind of stuff stick to it and stick with us, and knowing you too, because I'm gonna tell you, I was talking to my producer, and we were gonna do a show on the letter that you wrote me for Mother's Day. And I couldn't get through it without just boo-hooing. So I said, you're going to have to give me some time where I'm not just snotting and stuff. So, but that's what makes it special, because things that leaves the heart reaches the heart. You know what I'm saying? I know that I do have another thing that I've gotten input in. What do you think when a man messes up, not necessarily have an affair or whatever, but or say if he does have an affair, what type of things do you think he need to do to kind of make up for that. I have known men who mess up and the dishes stay in the sink. Like when I get upset about something, you done heard me say this before, son. I'm on strike. I ain't cooking, cleaning. The only thing that we can do is have sex because sex benefits me.
Right,
You
right.
know, so if you done upset me, I'm on strike. So I'm not cooking, I'm not cleaning. I fire my housekeeper so they ain't come to clean. You know, certain type thing. But when because now in this day and time, people can get caught up or make a mistake or hurt their significant other, and I think it goes both ways. And then they just want to go about their day and like normal without putting in any work to make that thing better. So what advice would you give to a man that done messed up?
Yeah.
What does he need to do?
Well, the first thing he needs to do is make sure that he understands what the issue is, like deeply. First, you know, do you have an adequate understanding of why your partner is upset? And I would say if you don't know if your partner is upset, if she's acting different at all, she's kind of short in her speaking, you see the dishes piled up when she always taking care of them, that kind of thing, you know there's a problem. And you need to keep asking. You need to find, hey, I know something is wrong, and ask some probing questions. Hey, what's going on? I know and get them to tell you fully what the issue is. When you find out what the issue is, the first thing for me is just being apologetic, genuinely.
But most of the time, y'all already know what the issue is.
Okay. Well,
Think
if you didn't, sure. So, but let's just say first step, because sometimes, you know, you walk into a situation, you're not quite sure. But yeah, in this situation, let's say we know. Okay. And then, so you find out what the issue is. You've got to apologize it's got to be earnest. It's got to be sincere. You have to take, even if you said something and you didn't mean it to come out that way, it doesn't matter. If their feelings are hurt about something, the first thing, a man or woman, the first thing you got to do is, hey, I'm genuinely sorry about that. And then, and I'm going to try my best to not do that again, whatever that is. And then I think you have to obviously start pouring back into your relationships. Because if you hurt somebody's feelings, like I know you've used the analogy of a bank account, where when you are meeting their needs, you're basically depositing money into this love bank account. And when you have hurt them, you basically made a massive withdrawal. And so after you have apologized, after you told them you're going to do better, for me, I like to try to set up controls. So if there's any outside tools that I can rely on, so let's say I forgot a holiday, for example. Yeah. Let's say I forgot a holiday. Or an anniversary or something. Okay, maybe I have a calendar at work where I put this anniversary on, and then I'll have a reminder set up the day before, and I'll have a reminder set up the 2 days before, and I'll have another reminder set up 4 hours before I want to give her the anniversary gift. That's how I do it. So I'll have calendars everywhere with a bunch of reminders days in advance so that I don't forget. So if you messed up, so I don't forget again. So if you messed up and you can rely on any type of external tool or something to help you remember, or if you were talking to some other woman, I've actually had to do this. I've had to change my number before. Like, hey, I'm serious. I'm never going to talk to this person again. I messed up. Let me go change my phone number. Like, if that's what you got to do to help them realize you're serious about the promise that you have made, man, I'll change that number in a heartbeat. Like, it's nothing compared to my relationship. Right. And so you do whatever it is you need to do. You apologize, you set up your controls, and then you start pouring back into the relationship. She likes foot rubs, go rub her feet, take her out somewhere, do something romantic, let her know, like, hey, I love you. And you pour in regularly, like on a daily basis, at least. Until you get back in her good graces. That's what I would do from a man or woman's perspective. I think that's how I do it.
And so I think that it is a major mistake for us to make mistakes or hurt our significant other. And then, well, the first thing I think a lot of times is you mess up and then you don't want to admit that you messed up. So nothing can get resolved that way. If you hurt me, and now you're playing like you didn't hurt me, and you expect all of this greatness, you're sadly mistaken. I think that it starts with, again, being truthful. You know my saying, truth and transparency. It makes for a healthy relationship. Because the longer you linger it out, the longer the dishes ain't getting washed, the longer you starving. Now you gotta make now your budget is out of whack because now you gotta try to eat out all the time but when that can be easily fixed. So you tell me, D, how important is truth and transparency in a healthy relationship?
I mean, it's everything. Truth and transparency is everything in a relationship. I mean, I think communication is a huge foundation of a relationship. And without truth and transparency, you basically don't have solid communication. So I think you have to communicate, and you have to communicate in a way that's truthful and transparent. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's the fundamental, those are fundamental keys. There absolutely have to be included in every relationship. And then what you said too about not wanting to admit you're wrong. I tell my child all the time, because, she wants to be she wants to grow up and be an intelligent, bright, smart person. And I tell her, smart people don't do that. They don't run around and act like they don't make mistakes. They don't run around reluctant to say I'm wrong. They don't pretend like they don't do that at all. Just go ahead and fall on your sword, so to speak, and just say, I'm sorry. Because at the end of the day, other than your pride, I'm sorry costs you nothing.
Nothing.
And it does a lot towards helping your relationship stay strong. And heal. And heal, exactly. And so being reluctant to say, I'm sorry, I just don't get it. Or being reluctant to say, yeah, I messed up, I don't understand it. And I'm always encouraging her, just admit it. You don't have to pretend like you are perfect. There are some people who act like they just never want to be wrong. And it for me and you, it really rubs me the wrong way, because it makes me feel like, it makes me think that you're stupid. Like, that's how I feel.
Well, it makes me think that you think I'm stupid.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
no. I know I ain't stupid, and I don't even question that. So for me, you just look dumb, because you're trying to make me buy into this, and I'm not going to under any circumstance. And if I catch you in something, you just being crazy by not admitting it, because I already know you did it. And then on top of that, I'm always thinking about my children and my future kids. Just me, like, I don't want to have a baby with a low IQ person. So if I'm coming into a situation and it's like, why is this person so slow? Like, I don't like spending time with slow people. I don't like being around slow folks. And I certainly wouldn't want to have a slow baby. So it's like, I can't be in this.
Yeah. I'll give you my analogy. I give this analogy all the time in regards to walking in truth and transparency. I remember when I was smoking crack, okay? And other people, my mom, for instance, I heard that you were smoking that stuff. No, I don't smoke it. But this is what I tell people. My mama already knew the truth. She could look at me and tell I was on something. But here I am, up and down. No, I don't do it. And then my little stupid tail believed that she believed me. And I think that's how relationships is sometimes too. You did something. Honey, did you remember to take out the trash? Did you take out the trash? Yeah. I took it out. I took it out this morning. Well, why is it still out there? Did you take it out late? No, I didn't take it out late. They must didn't come by at the same time, you know. And we looking on the ring camera when the truck came, and you hadn't put the trash out, and it's like you really believe that we believe you. You know what I mean? And then with my dope smoking, it went even farther than that because I started, because basically that's just a lie. You know, I just lied to you. Yes, I'm a crackhead, but I lied to you and then thought that you believed my lie. And then it went deeper because then I start believing the lie. I can quit anytime I get ready. You know? And that's how it is too when you're dealing with somebody who just will stand in your face and lie. That's with your significant other, your children, the grandchildren. I don't care who it is. And when you are in that state, nothing can get healed.
Yeah.
Nothing over that hump, because if you lie about not taking out the trash, I can't trust you at all. And trust is major in a relationship as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think if you think about a marriage long term, so many times we're trying to build something together. We're trying to achieve these major goals. And so much of whether our long term happiness is wrapped up in, can I trust this person or not?
Yes.
And if they're going to sit there and, like you say, lie about small things, certainly lie about big things, then how are we supposed to, you know, we got all this retirement money that we're trying to load up. Can I trust you not to like raid our accounts? Like from a woman's perspective, you got a man out in the streets. Can I trust you not to bring a baby? Like basically have a baby out there? Like, can I really trust you not to have to give up a lot of your check to pay child support? I mean, if they're lying to you, it makes me question the future of the relationship, because I just I can't build this castle that I'm trying to build on this sand because I don't have trust in you. So I think that's absolutely critical. And it's a sad thing too, because what a lot of people lie about is when your needs or your wants and desires are at odds with somebody else's wants and desires, and you feel like you need to lie in order to basically have your cake and eat it too. When the reality is, if you just tell them the truth, hey, I took out the trash late, right? What is the harm in that? That's the truth. It's not gonna hurt anything. If your desire, like I read this article the other day about a woman who married a man and found out that he was gay. Why are you lying about this if you're gay and that's how you feel? And then you're getting to the point where you want to act out on these things. You could have just told me you were gay in the beginning, and then
I'm bisexual or whatever, and give that person the opportunity to whether they want to deal with it or not.
And give them you didn't have to lie about it. Then that way you can be happy yourself. You don't have to lie to the person. You can actually be happy. And if it's something that you're not going to keep doing, you could still tell them the truth, but then tell them you're not going to keep doing it. If that's
Fix
true.
me one.
In this particular case, she stayed with the guy. She's a Black woman. He comes out as gay or bi, and she stays with him and helps him navigate through his homosexuality, his homosexual tendencies.
And he could have been and had that help.
He could have done that.
Just opened up. If it truth and transparency, it would have made everything okay.
Absolutely.
So D, I'll tell you what, I love these relationship conversations that you and I have. We're going to have to get Angelique on with us too. I know she don't want to get on the camera. But I sent her a topic for her that I think is important. But relationships, we already know that when we have healthy relationships, not just any relationship, healthy relationships, we tend to live longer, and we tend to be happier. But in all of that, and I talk to myself and to everybody, we gotta be realistic also. If we are in abusive relationships, if the line in the paper has you happy 10% of the time, but 90% of the time there's a problem, then we might just need to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've been there. I've had to, you know, because I've been married. I was married to your dad. You know what I mean. I've been married, you know, to again, but at the end of the day, and that's what the talk box is all about, is navigating through this journey of abundant living.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to have abundant living if you're in unhealthy relationships, whether that's a marriage, whether that's with your children, whether that's whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to encourage everybody to live your best life. Y'all see, I am. I'm always living my best life, because life is short.
Yeah.
And so, and don't lose the best thing, because y'all know I'm spiritual. Don't lose the best thing that God have for you being stupid. Mm-hmm. Okay. So D, what advice, before we close out, what advice do you have for the men and women on the talk box today?
Yeah, I mean, communicate your needs to your partner, and find out their needs, and every day spend some time, at least 30 minutes, an hour, doing something for them that they need to be happy in a relationship. And if they're not meeting your needs, leave. I mean, I think that really sums it up. You know,
that's it.
Give them some time, you know, give them some time, give them a month or so to get right, depending on the problems. And then if not, let it go. Find somebody new. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, D, I tell you what, thank you so very much for being my awesome co-host here on the Talk Box with Sonja G. It is truly been a blessing and an enlightenment. And so I hope that he and or I have said something to help you along your life's journey to abundant living. So we thank you for coming on, and y'all stay tuned. Real soon, I've got to let y'all hear the letter that my son wrote me. Oh my goodness. I still, when I think about it, I tear up, because you and I, I lost you and that sort of thing. But our relationship now, and your letter to me for Mother's Day was the sweetest and the best Mother's Day gifts that I could ever ask for. Mm-hmm. So I thank God for you, and I want you to know that I love you. Mwah. And so you guys make sure that you're subscribing to the Talkbox channel on YouTube, and we'll see you guys real soon. Bye.
Let's talk about it. Yeah. Listening to the Talkbox with Sonja. You're listening to the Talkbox. Let's talk about it.